Hey folks, Matt Easton here, Scholar Gladiator. So we're at Skirmish. We're wrapped up because it's a freezing day today, because obviously it's nearly May in England, so it's freezing cold. This is Gavin, buddy from my club. We're doing a little bit of archery. In fact, we've been doing tons of archery during the event. Now, what I should say before I say anything else is this is in no way a scientific test. This is just us having a bit of fun, okay? Now, Gavin has got this helmet. We just have a little look at this helmet down here. It is a sort of pseudo-Norman or Anglo-Saxon era helmet. One-piece construction with added on crossbars to make it look like a Spangen helm. It is not actually constructed as a Spangen helm. It is a solid one-piece helmet. It is, we believe, 14 gauge mild steel. Just a little comment on that. So some people go, that's not historical. Well, no modern steel is medieval steel. Let's just accept that now. All I'm going to say is that is a piece of 14 gauge modern mild steel. And in some ways, that might be more protective than some pieces of armour in the period, okay? But it might be less protective than other bits of armour in the period. We have to remember that armour comes in many thicknesses, many qualities, everything from iron all the way up to carbon steel. In the era that this helmet is supposed to be portraying, this is probably better steel than most helmets would have been at the time of the Norman conquest in 1066. The bows we're using, we actually had Will Sherman with some heavy war bows here, up to 150 pounds draw weight, but we were too busy shooting to do any of this filming stuff yesterday. So what we've got is some fairly light bows. This is my Grozer Petroneg 60 pound bow. This is a 60 pound, isn't it?
Yeah, 60 pound Hunnish bow Grozer.
Yeah, so another Grozer bow, a Hunnish one, slightly different design to mine, but quite similar. And this is about a 60 pound.
55 pound, yeah.
Oh yeah, so fairly light longbow. But anyway, so these are essentially recreational bows. These are not warbow weight. They're relatively light. They're the sort of draw weight you might use for hunting in the medieval period. All we're going to do is we're going to have a little bit of fun shooting at the helmet with some sacrificial arrows that Gavin's brought along, and we're going to see what happens. We're going to film a little bit and then we'll show you afterwards. Just to talk a little bit about the arrowheads we're using arrowheads that may be appropriate to the period of the helmet. So they're sort of broadheads, they're relatively small broadheads, okay? They're not bodkins, they're not later 15th or 14th century armour piercing type heads. They're just the sort of thing that you might generically use in warfare in the period. It's not to say that they didn't have things like bodkins in this period, they did, but we don't happen to have any to hand. Just to reiterate, this is not a scientific experiment, this is purely for fun, okay?
They're very tight on the string, so it might be interesting to see them come off. Oh, do you want to go first? Yeah, I'm just trying to think. I'm not looking really. This is going to be a long time.
I'll get those arrows back.
This is us missing for hours.
Three hours later and we haven't missed it yet.
Oh, nice.
Right, so let's just bring the camera in and have a look at that. So this is a very interesting thing I've observed before. When you hit armour with arrows, what very often happens is you get, so you can see it skimmed across here and then hit the edge of the sort of cross strap there, and inevitably what happens is the head breaks off, and that's why I refer to these as sacrificial arrowheads. It's also true, incidentally, when you hit any type of hard target, be it a tree, a car, anything basically that arrows probably aren't designed really to be great at penetrating, the head breaks off. So there we go, that is now more or less a useless missile, I'm afraid. So there we go, let's carry on shooting at this and see if we can do any serious damage. Right, so incidentally you can see this helmet on the other side, which I didn't show before. It has been penetrated by things, but so what we saw here was the arrow, I think it was probably this one, did exactly the same as before, came in, skidded across the surface, wedged a load of wood underneath that, lifted up that cross piece, and there's bits of arrow lying everywhere. So that is very much now another destroyed arrow. The person wearing that helmet would have been absolutely fine in this case. Oh. Right, so that's why you have to stand a fair way clear of things you're shooting at. Don't do this at home, folks, okay? There are risks involved with this, but it completely obliterated the arrow. What did it do to the helmet, Gav?
Put a dent in it, but that's it.
So we've just done a dent, nothing more than that. Bear in mind, these are 60-pound bows, so you definitely, you know, put a deer down or a human down, but you're not going to do any damage to even mild steel of this thickness with this type of arrowhead and this type of bow. Maybe if we were using different types of arrowheads, maybe, but the main problem here is not to do with what the arrowhead's doing to the plate. The main problem is the deflection of the plate. And if you've got a curved surface like this, all of that energy, as soon as it hits, that energy looks for somewhere else to go. And if it can go anywhere else, it's going to shoot off at an angle, and that sort of torque just destroys the arrow, basically. Oi! Did that make a hole?
Yeah, I think it's dented it, but let's see what happens.
Whoa! It's a trick shot. It's still got a head on it as well.
The arrows are surviving, don't they?
That's made a we definitely increased our hit rate. Actually, it's better for us if we have a flat. Do I spin it? Yeah. That broke the head off that one. Oh well, got a hole.
Nice.
Hold on. The arrow. Oh no. Do you want to come?
Yeah, let's do it.
So we have got some minor degree of penetration on some of these helmets, just to show you it's that much, okay? So we have got little holes, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's not quite a hole, it's made a serious dent, and same with that one. So really we're not getting a degree of penetration through the plate with this type of head that would even injure the person wearing that helmet. Again, this isn't science, this is just fun. Take from that what you will.
Head went miles away.
That's another head gone.
Yeah.
Another one bites the dust. Yeah, it's still got head on it.
It's interesting when it hits there, because it pushes away like that. See on that side, that's new. You've done that just now.
Yeah.
Right, down to one last arrow.
Well, it won't be long then.
Right.
Whoa! Spectacular. It just obliterated. Okay, so let's come back. So what we've concluded is that, and this is for the science bit, with a 60-pound bow with arrowheads that are completely not designed to penetrate plate armour, shooting plate armour made of modern mild steel of 14 gauge thick, you basically don't do much at all.
No.
You know, as I say, take from that what you will. This isn't using historically accurate bows, it isn't using historically accurate arrows or historically accurate armour, but nevertheless it's something. For those of you who like to see arrows being shot into bits of plate, you know, my view is that if we're talking about a Norman's helmet, generally speaking, a Norman helmet in the Norman era will protect them from most arrows.
Yeah.
Maybe a super powerful longbow or super powerful crossbow might make more of an impact on it than we're doing, but the main problem isn't the penetration of the plate. The main problem is the deflection of the arrows, and usually, unless you get an absolutely straight on shot into the plate, and we saw some small holes being formed there, then you just get so much sudden deflection on the arrow that it just obliterates the arrow, or at the very least breaks the head off, and all of that energy is lost.
Although if you're standing in close ranks and it hit the person next to you,
yeah, so that's an
with
interesting
bits of
point.
splint
So it could glance off this person's helmet and hit the other person in the face. And of course you've got to bear in mind, this is in the age of mail. So really, the helmet, you know, arrows hitting your helmet is the least of your worries. What you've got to be worried about is arrows hitting your face, Harold Godwinson, or your mail shirt, or the bits of you that don't even have any armour on at all. Anyway, thanks for watching and see you soon. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. We have extra videos on Patreon and you can follow us on Facebook.